Hello everybody, welcome back to Points and Miles 101, a 10-part crash course series to help you better understand the basics of the Points and Miles game. First things first, it is best to get yourself familiar with all of the different loyalty programs that you have at your disposal. So for this second episode, we will start by taking a look at the 7 main US airlines and their corresponding loyalty programs. We have the big 3 of American, Delta, and United, as well as Alaska Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines, which recently merged this past September. I like to group these together as the 5 global loyalty programs, and then we have the low-cost carriers of Southwest and JetBlue. Down the line, I'll have some videos that go into greater detail of each loyalty program separately, but for now, let's take a look at all of these at a macro level. We'll take a look at United Airlines first, whose loyalty program is called Mileage Plus. They are part of the Star Alliance network. We will cover alliances in the next episode, and have hubs at Chicago O'Hare, Newark, Washington Dulles, Denver, Houston, LAX, San Francisco, and Guam in the Pacific. Their award currency is called miles, and they never expire once accrued. Next, we have American Airlines, whose program is called Advantage. They are part of the One World Alliance and have hubs at Charlotte, Chicago O'Hare, Dallas, LAX, Miami, New York, JFK, and LaGuardia, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Washington Reagan. Their award currency is called miles, and they do expire every 24 months without any flight activity. Rounding out the big 3, we have Delta, whose program is called Sky Miles. They are part of the Sky Team Alliance and have hubs at Atlanta, Boston, Detroit, LAX, Minneapolis, New York, JFK, and LaGuardia, Salt Lake City, and Seattle. Their award currency is called miles, and they never expire once accrued. Next, we will look at Alaska Airlines, whose program is called Mileage Plan. They are also part of the One World Alliance along with American and have hubs in Anchorage, LAX, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, and San Diego, along with focus cities in Boise and San Jose. Their award currency is called miles, and they never expire once accrued. We'll take a look at Hawaiian Airlines next, who, like I mentioned, just merged with Alaska Airlines back in September. Now, upon the merger, they did announce their plans for one single unified loyalty program, with details to come sometime in mid-2025. So until then, both of these programs will operate separately, with some elements already being made cohesive, such as being able to buy flights on either airline, on either website, and being able to freely transfer Alaska miles and Hawaiian miles between the two programs until they become one. But for now, let's look at the Hawaiian program as it is set up today, which is called Hawaiian Miles. They are not currently part of One World, but will view them as a de facto member due to their merger with Alaska. They have 2 hubs, one in Honolulu on the island of Oahu and the other in Kahului on the island of Maui. Their award currency is called miles, and they never expire once accrued. Taking a look now at the low-cost carriers, we have Southwest, whose program is called Rapid Rewards. They are not part of any global airline alliance, and they do not operate any hubs, but instead have operating bases. These include Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago Midway, Dallas Love, Denver, Houston Hobby, Las Vegas, LAX, Nashville, Oakland, Orlando, and Phoenix. Their award currency is called points, and they never expire once accrued. Finally, we have JetBlue, whose program is called TrueBlue. They are also not part of any alliance and do not operate hubs, but they do have focus cities in Boston, Fort Lauderdale, LAX, New York JFK, Orlando, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Their award currency is called points, and they never expire once accrued. Okay, that was a lot, but it is pretty great that we as consumers have so many options to choose from when flying here in the US. As I'm sure many of you know, there are plenty of other airlines here in the US, such as Spirit and Frontier, but in the context of Points and Miles, those programs are relatively obsolete, so we're just going to stay focused on these 7 for now. Now, when it comes time to book your flights and get to flying, in the context of Points and Miles, my suggestion is always to pick one airline and stick with them and fly with them as much as you possibly can. Why is that? Well, every time you fly, you earn miles. Like we said in episode 1, these miles are a de facto currency that you can use to purchase flights in the future. Oftentimes, there's this misconception that the only way that you can earn points and miles is by using credit cards, and that's just not true. Yes, there are certain credit cards out there with their sign-up bonuses that help you accrue these miles a lot faster, which we will obviously cover at a later point in the series, but you will still earn a lot of miles by actually flying on the plane. So for those times that you're traveling on tickets that you pay with cash, you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up properly when earning those miles. The philosophy here is that it's much more valuable to have the miles that you accrue from flying pooled with one choice airline when it comes to redeeming those miles. Let's take a look at a simple one-way redemption from Chicago to LAX on the big three airlines. As you can see, all three of these airlines have redemptions that range from 12 to 15,000 miles in standard economy. Now let's say I have a handful of flights for some trips coming up that I need to book. If I was a type of traveler to bounce between all three of these airlines when flying, I may accrue 5,000 miles with each program, which wouldn't do me any good here when looking at this redemption to LA. But if I chose to concentrate all of these flights with either United or American or Delta, those miles I earned would pool with one program, and I would have enough to cash in on this redemption regardless of which airline I chose. Now I know these numbers are a bit overly simplistic, but the point I'm trying to illustrate here is that you run the risk of stretching yourself thin by not choosing to pool your flight activity with one airline, obviously assuming you have the luxury of choosing. Another factor that comes into play when choosing a primary airline is the ability to earn status. All of these airlines require a certain amount of flight segments, a certain amount of spend, or a combination of both to obtain status. Now we're not going to dive into the depths of status and status earning in this video, there's just not enough time for that, but to give you an idea of what those thresholds look like, let's take a look at what it takes to earn status with United. As you can see, for the average traveler, these thresholds are nearly impossible to meet unless you're only flying with one airline and its network of partners. Now, you will oftentimes hear a lot of chatter about how status isn't worth it and it's not worth chasing, and we can have the debate all day about how much status is worth, but objectively speaking, there are benefits to having status when we're looking at the context of points and miles. Every single one of these airlines awards extra points and miles to those who hold status on top of those that are already earned on the base fare. For example, here's what that looks like on United, and as you can see, there is a pretty significant discrepancy from top to bottom, which shows that having elevated status allows you to accrue award miles much faster when you're flying. A little side note on United too is that they actually offer expanded award availability for those who hold status. Again, another points and miles benefit to having status. So now the question becomes, well, how do you decide which airline to make your primary airline? Well, I will preface this question first by saying that I would suggest that you just sign up for all of them regardless. Number one, they're all free, so it's not going to cost you anything. And number two, if you ever have to deviate from your choice airline for whatever reason, you want to have your bases covered. No matter which airline you may be flying, you're going to want to capture whatever miles you can. There definitely is not an answer to which airline is the best because that depends on a ton of factors, and that is a completely subjective question to begin with. I'm also not here to suggest one airline over the other because what I feel like works for me in my travel habits may not work for you and your travel habits. But here are some questions that you can ask yourself that I think can help steer you in the right direction. Number one is, where do you live? A simple question, but one that probably has the most influence. Do you live in or near any of these airlines' hubs or focus cities? If yes, then it probably makes sense for you to choose that airline because you'll simply have more routes, more destinations, and more frequencies to choose from. For example, I live in Chicago where United is headquartered, so having them as my choice airline makes sense and gives me a ton of options when it comes to frequencies and destinations. Conversely, where do you travel to the most? The same logic applies here if you travel frequently to an airline's hub or focus city. Perhaps you live in Cleveland and you visit your parents often down in Atlanta. Delta may make the most sense for you there. If you travel a lot internationally, then an airline like Southwest might not make much sense because they just don't have the same global connectivity since they're not part of any airline alliance. What's your budget? If you are a more budget conscious traveler, then something like Southwest might make sense because they tend to have the lowest fares. Again, there are a ton of factors that go into determining which airline works best for you, but I hope that these questions can at least start to get those gears turning for you. Like I said before, down the line we'll take a more in-depth look at all of these programs, but for now, it is good to first at least get familiar with what your options are. No matter which of these airlines you choose, picking one, sticking with them, and concentrating your mileage earning with one program as much as you can will set you up for success and will set you up to be able to redeem your miles much faster and a lot more frequently. In the next video, we will stay within the airline realm and take a look at the 3 global airline alliances. You saw these referenced earlier in this video, and it is very important to understand what those are, as they play a crucial role in the points and miles game. In the meantime, please don't be shy about asking any questions down in the comments. There are no stupid questions here, and I will do my best to answer as much as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next.